Hi all, welcome to the Matchbook Horse Racing Podcast. We've got another brilliant weekend of racing to preview for you. And do you know what? The next time we're doing this, it'll be jumps through and through. But this is QIPCO British Champions Day preview, joined by Micheál, Deasy and Donn McClean to preview the now 7 races on QIPCO British Champions Day, because of course they've added the 2-year-old race. And we've got a Group 1 to kick things off as well in the form of the long distance, which has been upgraded. So it's going to be a great day's racing. Hopefully we find you some winners as well. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe wherever you're listening. Best no-cost way of supporting the podcast. And also take advantage of the Pod 50 offer. Bet 50, get 50 in free bets. Simple as that. T's and C's are on the website. I'll take you through the £5 money back as a free bet, best bet treble when we get there. Right. Champions Long Distance Cup, first of all. I mean, Donn and I have put Trawlerman no bet, which is pretty obvious. So we can be quiet on this one. Deasy, have you actually got a way that you're playing this?
Yeah, I was going to put Trawlerman no bet as well, but I said I just tried the forecast with Sweet William for Trawlerman to come first and Sweet William to come second. If you look through the rest of the race, Saratoga is a no-hoper. Al Karim is stepping up to 2 miles again after winning over 1.5 miles the last time. I just don't think it's ideal and probably what he wants. And Stay True, I suppose, could be the flying the ointment, but again, he's stepping up in trip as well. So I just think, look, Sweet William finished second to Trawlerman last year, rock solid. If you want to have a bet in the race, I wouldn't be it's quite easy to just give this a skip and watch Trawlerman win. But I think if you wanted to have a small bet, Trawlerman to come first and Sweet William to come second.
Fundamentally, we just need more horses in this division.
Yeah.
Or a Kyprios back, but then we'd be putting Kyprios no bet.
Scandinavia will be in it next year now.
Yeah, well, you're right. Yeah. Right, the 2-year-old race, I'm sitting it out, but I am fascinated by the horse that both of you are putting up, because this horse looked a monster. It's not often they geld him early, but I don't know. He faded pretty tamely over 5 last time, Donn McClean. Why are you keeping the faith?
Yeah, I thought he'd be shorter, Tom. Look, what he did at the Curragh that day, like he was over on the far side and he just went further and further clear, and the horse that finished second behind him, Chicago Pub, won his maiden there at Naas on Sunday, was good and winning that day as well, backed as well, Johnny Murtagh's horse. And then in the Round Tower Stakes, I thought he did well. He was in front from a fair way out, and he only just got home by 3 parts of a length in the end from the Publican Sun. But there was a headwind at the Curragh that day, and I thought he did well, and he was never going to get beaten. I know the Publican Sun was beaten in the Middle Park next time, but that probably wasn't his running. He was well supported and well fancied for the Middle Park, so I think Publican Sun is better than he was able to show in the Middle Park. And then the last day, as you said, Tom, in the Flying Childers, 5 furlongs is just not his thing. He was over towards the far side as well. Kansas came up the near side as lesser fancied stable companion and got the better of him. I think back up to 6 furlongs today, like his dam's a sister to Prosperous Voyage, a Falmouth Stakes winner. So you think 6 furlongs or maybe even 7 furlongs would be more his trip. So I think stepping back up in trip is a positive for him. Christoph Soumillon is riding him in front of Kansas. It looks like Soumillon has had the choice of the Edna Bryan horses for the whole day. And yeah, I'd say I just thought he'd be a bit shorter than he is. I think he's interesting now. There's more to come from him back up to 6 furlongs.
Mission Central, Deasy, you agree?
Yeah, I think he's actually, my notes for him and the favourite or the True are very similar. They both come out of the stalls so fast. They've both been gelded after their first run, and the two of them, it's like they have a running start coming out of the stalls. They're just out and gone straight away, and I like that in sprinters particularly, but for a 2-year-old, and their second and third runs, I think it's a really good sign. I think World True could be a serious horse, but he's very short. He's odds on in this. And like Donn covered Mission Central. He won his first race by 8 lengths going away from them. Was just too fast from last time. And look, I think he's quite similar in profile and probably in ability to the favourite, but he's 9.0 and the favourite is 1.83 at the moment. So I go for the bigger price.
All right, that's the 2-year-old race, done and dusted. Mission Central, Deasy without the favourite. Champion Sprint up next. I might as well kick us off because for some reason this track can play to speed on Champions Day. I don't know why. Anyway, I think Big Mojo will be really suited by it. Previous winner here. I thought 6.5 was fair enough. I was tepid on Lazat, to be honest. I don't know. It just didn't. Obviously, it was really good when winning here a couple of starts ago in the Queen Elizabeth II Jubilee or whatever it is, but hasn't convinced since. And obviously was behind Big Mojo last time. Big Mojo likes it here. Get a nice forward ride, and I know it was a bit disappointing at Ascot in the 3-year-old race, but was not the right side on that occasion and had to wait for a run as well. So I don't want to judge the horse purely on that. I think he's worth a little go. And the other one is Iberian, who I just thought was overpriced for a yard that are back in form with blinkers going on. It was 5.5 lengths behind Lazat in June and keeping on. And I'm just going to chance him. He's 67.0. You probably get big prices on the exchange on the day. Blinkers going on, yards back in form in comparison to when the horse was last running. I thought he was worth a little go, Iberian, at a massive price, win and place. Deasy.
Yeah, I agree with you on Big Mojo, and he was probably the one I was close to backing at a shorter price, but I've gone up and down through this race, and look, they've all beaten each other at some stage this season, and I think we've 3 different winners in the Group 1s, the big Group 1s, the big sprinting ones. So I'm taking a wild swing on Paddy Toomey's horse, King Coon, and the reason for this, look, he's a hold-up horse. He is going to be flying late, and you do need a bit of luck with these horses. But I think in this race, there's loads of pace. There's probably 5 or 6 that'll definitely go forward and will push the pace. King Coon is 21.0. I'm just hoping that there is a pace collapse, that he's on the scene and that he's going to run through and either win or pick up a bit of place money. Paddy Toomey hasn't wasted any runners going over to Ascot this year. He's had a great year, and he's a really good trainer. I love backing his horses when he goes to England. And at 21.0, I'll be having him win place, because you might get a few extra places on this on Matchbook. It's 20 runners, so you might get 4 or 5. You're back.
Don, you're keeping the faith with Kind of Blue.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with anything we all said on King Coon. I wouldn't be surprised to see him running a big race. But no, Kind of Blue. I just think this meeting and this day, it's we're the end of the season. Okay, the ground is a bit quicker, well, a fair bit quicker than we've come to expect. But I do like a horse who's had this day as a target from a little way out, and it just Kind of Blue shapes like that type of horse. I know James Doyle has chosen to ride Lazat instead, but there may not have been much in it. Daniel Muscott, who rides him on Saturday, rode him at the Curragh when he was only just beaten by Bucanero Fuerte. He rode him again last time at Haydock when he ran a big race. Okay, he has to reverse placements with Big Mojo, but he won this race last year. And in the Haydock race, he was just kind of short of room. He wasn't badly hampered, and I don't think he was an unlucky loser. I don't think it was the difference between winning and losing, but he was kind of checked for room on the stands rail about 2 furlongs out. And he showed a good attitude then to get back out and finish second, just got up for second place behind Big Mojo. And I think he can come forward from that again. He's a horse who, in the early part of the season, his first 2 runs were way below his best, but he's coming now. His last 2 runs have been much better. And I think there's a good chance he'll step forward again from that. So he's got a draw in stall 18. I think he was in 17 last year when he won. And it was a funny race last year. They kind of erred towards the far side. But the low drawn horses who were drawn on the far side didn't appear to be advantaged. It appeared to be the kind of high drawn horses who were on the outside of the field as they veered towards the far rail. So if it's a similarly run race on Saturday, that'll suit Kind of Blue. There's plenty of pace around a Big Mojo. He's in 20. He likes to race prominently. Kino's in 15. He goes forward. So I think he should get a good toe into the race. And yeah, I can see him running really well again. Montasib's the other horse. He's pretty obvious. He ran a big race at Newbury over 5 furlongs the last day on his first run of the season. He ran the race last year as well. He finished 5th. He was well back from a low draw the last day, and he stayed on to take 5th place. So I can see him running well as well. But Kind of Blue is a bigger price. He's last year's winner. he goes at the track. The ground on the easy side of good is perfect, and yeah, I can see him running well again.
All right, we move on. I think that's your best bet as well, isn't it, Don? We'll get there. The next up is the fillies and mares. Go on, Dees, you can kick us off.
Yeah, I found this very hard. I would be against Calpana because I just don't like backing her after she was teed up for the Arc and she probably had a hard race. I don't know if there's any stats on horses that run in Longchamp and how they get on coming back here, but I just think that'd be a negative for all that she's a really, really genuine horse. And again, I'm not too sure about Estrange either. I just don't think that she's beaten anything this year and was well put in her place. I know that she's probably been saved for this and was pulled out of the Arc, so she's had an extra 2 weeks preparation, but I think she's skinny enough price. I'm going for Warda. No, I'd be afraid that the ground, she never really run on fast ground. It's always been soft ground, but I think that this is a horse, like she's had a nice break. Has probably been kept back for this one in good style at Goodwood, was pulling away from the line and was well gambled on at the day. I'd say there's plenty more to come from her. You know, Owen Burrows is a really good trainer, really good strike rate for even staking, 1 pound staking, or you're nearly always winning money on his horses. I just think that she probably has a lot of potential, and at 7.0, I'll have a bet off her in a fairly tricky race.
Yeah, I wasn't overly enamoured with a bet in here, but I wasn't convinced Calpana. Estrange as well. Like obviously the York form looks good, but I'm just slightly concerned about conditions as well. She has been proven at her very best on a slightly easier surface, and it's sort of unseasonably quick ground, I guess, for this time of year, although it's not going to be rapid. I'd chance Kissisana. I know she comes out of the Arc and found it all a bit too much. Magical did it a few years ago, coming back to this, but yeah, I didn't think there were all that from over here. So, you know, Graffard's done it before at Ascot this season and over the last few years, and I thought she was worth a poke, but it's not a strong opinion. Don?
Yeah, it's interesting on the ground, isn't it? Because all year you're thinking soft ground at Ascot on Champions Day. Then all week we're thinking it's got to be good to firm, but it's not. It's kind of autumn good ground, isn't it? Like I'd say I'm kind of basing everything on the premise that it's going to be just on the easy side of good. And if it I don't know if there's much rain forecast, but I don't think it's going to be rattling fast ground anyway. So I think ground on the easy side of good is fine. I agree with a lot of what Micheál said as well about the Arc meeting. Like, now Poptronic did win this race after running in the Prix de Royal on Arc weekend, and Wonderful Tonight did as well. But Calpana last year, she hadn't had a run since the September Stakes. Emily Upjohn, she hadn't run since the King George. Ashada hadn't run since the Yorkshire Oaks. So it is a race that, okay, you can do it, but I think on balance, you prefer not have run at the Arc meeting. Calpana ran there, Kissisana ran there, Bedtime Story ran there. We might take the long road, One Look, Latakia, they all ran at the Arc meeting. And again, for me, it's back to a horse that's been targeted at the race, and Warda could be one of those. But I like Danielle. I would have preferred softer ground for her. And she's going to have to step forward a fair bit on what she's been doing this season so far. But she's only run twice. She was beaten by Warda in the Lily Langtry that Micheál was talking about. But I thought she ran really well that day on her first run back of the season. And she was probably outstayed over 1.6 miles. She ran over 1.6 miles last time as well in the Park Hill. And she travelled best of all to the 2 furlong marker. She was the only filly still on the bridle going to the 2 furlong marker. And she was probably just outstayed that day or at 1 mile, 6.5 furlongs up Doncaster's home straight. It's a real grueler. She was only 2 lengths behind Consent, who went and won the Prix de Royal at the Arc meeting. So I think her form is good. I think she's going to have to step forward a fair bit from what she's been doing this season so far. But I think she can. I think the Gods probably had this race as her main target really for the whole season in anticipation of softer ground. But I think ground on the easy side of good will be fine for her, and I can see her running her odds by a fair way, yeah.
You've sort of talked me into that, Don. I quite like that case. Very good. I've got a stronger opinion on Danielle now. QE2, not for me, given Field of Gold. It's just I don't know, 3.0 could look ridiculous. Yeah. Over to you, DC.
Yeah, you'd have to have an old saver and feel the goal, but he's certainly probably a horse that's going to be boosted in a lot of places now tomorrow. I'd say there'll be plenty taking him on, and we could look silly turning down that price based on what he did earlier in the season, but just too short in a really, really good race. I'd love to see Rosalien winning as well, just get his day in the sun. I think this is probably the best chance he has of it. I think today I could see it falling well from, but I'm going for potentially again. I'm going for Never So Brave, Andrew Balding's horse. Absolutely bolted up off top weight in the Buckingham Palace at the Royal Meeting. Followed that up again over a mile on the round course at Ascot in July, and then won the City York Stakes last time. I'd say he's obviously a top class horse. They campaigned him well after getting plenty of money in the bank, made use of his mark. I could just see him probably. I think he belongs in this kind of race. He's well worth a shot. He is 10.0. Like if you want to do a place bet, no bother with that. But I could see him just improving past a lot of these and running a huge race. I think he's a nice price. Like this is wide open. You look at Docklands there as well. You know, he's 12.0. He keeps winning at big prices. He'd be interesting. But I just can't do Never So Brave. After going up and down of it, I just think he's a very interesting one thrown in here. And I wonder would he be running in it if Andrew Balding wasn't trying to win the trainer's title. You know, this will go a long way towards closing the gap on Aidan O'Brien. So yeah, I'm definitely going to take a chance on him. I think at 10.0, he's well worth a bet in this company.
Donn, who are you with?
Yeah, this is a hell of a race now. I feel a gold in it. And Rosalien, it's kind of crazy that Rosalien hasn't won all season, isn't it? He's run so many big races and just come up short. I really like Johnny Murtha's horse Alakazi. I'm dying to see how he's going to get on. The stiff mile should suit him really well. He just has an awful lot to find, but he's a progressive horse. I can see him being a 9 or 10 furlong horse next season, all being well. If he stays in training, hopefully he will, please God. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he gets on. But I thought Factor Cheval was way too big. He ran a big race in this race last year. He finished second behind Sharon. He was back in the field early on that day, and he got out after Sharon, but Sharon got first run on him, but it was still a massive run. And again, there's every chance Jerome Renier has had this race in mind for him since then. His last run was in the Prince of Wales Stakes, and he was only sixth that day. He was well beaten by Ombudsman, and in a sense, no real shame in that, but he ran way better than that. He was back in the field early on. He made a rapid mid-race move and actually led into the home straight, and then like 10 furlongs, having made that move, it wasn't surprising that he faded after that. But he's a classy horse. He won the Dubai Turf last year. I like Micheál Barcelona back on board. Obviously, he's on the crest of a wave after winning the Arc, and he won a Group 2 there at the weekend on Samangan as well at Maison Lafitte. So he's a good rider. He's got a good record on Factor Cheval. So that's a positive for him as well. His draw is fine at stall 11, and yeah, I can see him taking a good. I think the drop back down and trip to a mile, a strongly run stiff mile will suit him well, and I think he's a little bit of an overlooked horse in the race.
All right, that's a cracker, and then the Champion Stakes is just a belter of a race. Everything there, geldings against colts, and it's just. Yeah, it's a absolute belter. I kept coming back to Ombudsman. I didn't want to, Dees. Like I didn't, but I just, particularly with the pace in there, after what he did at Ascot, I think it should all work out pretty well. Like, yeah, it obviously didn't work out at Sandown, but other than that, he's been foot perfect, and I think with a guaranteed pace, I just think he's the best horse in the race. If it was going to be easier ground, I'd have swung towards, something like an Almacam would have really piqued my interest. I obviously respect Calandagam a huge amount, but I still think Ombudsman form is better, and yeah, I kept coming back to him, Dees.
Yeah, and it's a better race because the ground is the way it is. I think if it was heavy ground, I just don't like that for flat horses. This is Champions Day. They should be running on fair ground that'll suit them all. And look, I think the reason that you should back Ombudsman in this is that like he is just the horse at this distance this year. I think he's lost a Sandown, but both of his losses were Sandown. Maybe he just doesn't like it. Stiff finish there might be his cup of tea. But over 1 mile too, and even like his win in Ascot, if you watch that back, like he hit a fair bit of trouble there, and in the Prince of Wales stake. I mean, Anmat got first run on him. He had to come out from behind horses to get his run, and he was absolutely demolished him in the end. It was a 2-length win. Again, look, that was a weird race the last time at York. I know people went about the pacemaker, but like Delacroix and an Ombudsman raced together. I take no notice where the pacemaker was. If you take him out of it, you beat him fair and square. They both got going at the same time. Yeah, look, I just like I wouldn't put up a whole load of favourites, and especially in a race as hot as this. But I just think that this is just the perfect opportunity for him, and I could see him winning. I think he's really, really good. I think I'd be against Gland again because he's dropping down in trip. I think he needed every hour to win the King George there against Calpana, and Delacroix. I just think he just fell right from at Sandown. I think he was well put in his place at York the last time, and they both have a good burst of pace, and it's a short straight here, so it's not going to be like the long run in at York. But I just think Ombudsman just has his number. I think he's a better horse, and yeah, he'd be strong fancy now to win this for me.
Go on, Don. You can come back to Deasy on that with Delacroix.
Yeah, look, what a race, and as Deasy says, like the ground, if the ground had been soft or typical ground this time of year, we probably wouldn't have had Delacroix. We might not have had Ombudsman either. So, and I actually was giving Anmat a chance about a month ago. But look, what a race. And I just think it's hard to price this up. I think that it should be kind of 9-4 each of 3, and Delacroix at 4.5 or thereabouts. I think it's too big. The score is 1-1. You can argue the case for both those races. The Eclipse was a really strange race, but he showed that turn of foot. And as Micheál was saying, in the Juddmonte, like you take the pacemaker out of it, and you do, but therefore it was a slowly run race, and Ombudsman did get first run, and at York, fast ground, fast track. It is hard to make up that ground, and we saw Delacroix in the Irish Champion Stakes, the turn of foot that he has. And I think the vibes and the fact that he's running, that to me, that's massive. Like Aidan O'Brien and Ballydoyle, like it appeared to me, anyways, if they really did want Ombudsman to come to Leopardstown to take him on, it didn't happen. So it's 1-1 between the two of them, and it's brilliant that it's happening now. And they're going for it. And you know, there's the upside to winning. It's of course it's there, but I just think if they didn't think they could beat him, they wouldn't be going. And it's brilliant that they are going. 10 furlongs is his optimum trip as well. A mile, okay, it didn't happen for him in the Derby, but 1.5 miles is probably on the 2 testing side for him anyway. And I'm just dying to see this race. Economics is a fascinating factor in there as well. And then when the likes of Almacam, they're whatever 26.0 or thereabouts, it tells you how strong a race it is. Like it's the race of the season for me. I'm dying to see how it pans out, but from a betting perspective, I think Delacroix is bigger than he should be.
All right, and I love the slight, whether it's real or not, needle between the 2 camps as well with Ombudsman Delacroix. It's class, isn't it? Right.
Yeah, I got a good laugh when he said that, you know, John gets cranky after races. Like you never It's very only an O'Brien thing to say. Like it was only a bit cheeky. Like it's great chat. It's a brilliant race. Delighted that they're all lining up.
Balmoral handicap then. Dees, we've come down on the same one. I'm a bit swayed by this horse's maiden runs and the improvement that he showed. Holloway boy. I know he ran poorly in the race last year. I think he'll be a bit more patiently ridden this time around. And yeah, Carl Burke. I'd imagine has sort of come back and targeted this, to be honest. What's your reasoning at 21.0? Yeah,
it's kind of what you said there. Like, I mean, he's a really high class horse. He has never dropped below. If you bar his first 2 runs, he's never dropped below 105. In his entire career, he absolutely bolted up at Ascot on his debut in the Chesham. He carried top weight in 2 handicaps there last year. Finished third at Ascot and York. You know, big race. You know, good races. Like I think he's just a really high class horse. his course distance form, he'll be able to carry the way. He's a fine big horse. He's definitely been kept back in target for this, and maybe he'll go over to Maidan as well, or he'll have another winter campaign. But like, I just thought his price was too big. There's plenty of them in this now that are fairly exposed, and we've seen him a lot this year. Whereas he's coming off a nice break, I think, and he'll be spot on. And sure, Carberk is having another brilliant season. I think he's too big a price with that ability. And again, look, a nice top weight. He'll be able to carry that. He'll be fine with that. It was 19.0, 21.0. That's a great win place bet for this.
You got another one as well.
We do. Down the bottom again. Look, he's another big price. He's nearly 33s. Tribal Chief for David Manuzia. If you dig into his form, he finished second to Bullet Point at the start of the season at Newmarket. And watch back that race, and Tribal Chief missed the break and was sitting out last, and was probably 10 lengths off them, off the leaders coming into the final 2 furlongs, and flew home. Now he was beaten 3.5 lengths by Bullet Point. Bullet Point was running off, I think it was 89 that day. Tribal Chief is actually giving a pound. And Bullet Point is rated 105 now. He's been a really, really good horse this season. Another thing for him, I suppose, as well, is that David Manuzia has had a fairly bad year. I don't think he's ever really hit form, and he was particularly bad at that time of year. So for this horse to be running so well, I think shows that he's a decent horse. Dove de France did nothing. His race at Newcastle behind Godwinson, again, look, he just didn't get a clear run. He was unlucky. He was squeezed out on the rail and just fell back. Again at Goodwood, came flying from back, beaten by Roscollin in probably soft ground that wouldn't have suited him. And then he turned up in Goodwood again in the middle of August and beat Treble T, who he was giving a pound to. And Treble T, just check me notes again there. Treble T was running off 95 that day, and he ended up, was he one of the favourites for the Cambridgeshire 2 runs later? So he's run well against 2 really unexposed horses that have gone way up in the weights, and he's running here off 94 now. I mean, he just didn't do anything in the Cambridgeshire. He was drawn the wrong side. I just think, look, he's a massive price. He could have 7 or 8 pounds in hand, but based on collateral form, I think off at that price, he's well worth betting this at 29.0, 30.0.
All right, Don.
Yeah, I like Shout, the Christopher's horse. I just think he's a coming out. Look, he's only a 3-year-old, and it's not easy for 3-year-olds in this type of race, but I'm not one a couple of years ago as a 3-year-old, and so it can be done. I just think, but at Ascot, he's an improving horse. He had a big run at Ascot back in early May when he finished 3rd behind Paraphiz, and he did well because he was really slowly away. The stalls open, and he just stood still for a couple of seconds. But And it wasn't a really fast run race. The first 2 in that race were 1st and 2nd from early. So he did well to keep on and pick up 3rd place behind them. And then last time back at Ascot on softer ground, he was so impressive in winning. Like the 2nd and 3rd were both pretty well beaten in the Cambridgeshire, but he couldn't have done much more than he did. He was off a mark of 91 then. He's £9 higher up to a mark of 100. It's only £7 higher than he was rated before that race. So I think he can improve by at least that amount to make up the degree by which he was raised. He's a progressive horse. He's only had 9 runs. So, I think he's high enough in the market, but I think he should run a big race. He's got everything in his favourite course, track, ground.
All right, that's us done before Matchbook Zero Long Shot without any lays. So Matchbook Zero Long Shot, reminder that goes live an hour before each of the races. And you're most likely to get best odds because there's no margin and there's no commission. So we'll throw in some big prices, win bets only. Mine's Iberian in the sprint, 67.0. Don?
Yeah, Factor Cheval for all the reasons outlined earlier.
In the QE2 and DC.
King Kwan in the champion sprint.
And the £5 money back special, put all these in a treble. And if it wins, happy days. So you pay out well this one. If it doesn't, you get your money back. Simple as that. It's for new and existing customers. Got to be these horses, though. I was left with Kissisana because my strongest fancies were in the 2, and I was late the 2 that the other 2 have gone for. They've got to be different races. But Kissisana, 8.5, Don?
Kind of blew in the sprint. Last year's winner should be shorter than he is, I think.
And DC.
Ombudsman, the Champion Stakes.
Lovely stuff. Thanks all, Donn, DC. Thanks for everyone that's commented and everyone for tuning in. We will see you again next week. Don't forget to head to insights.matchbook.com for a recap of all the bets. Have a great QIPCO British Champions Day. Bye all.